This video was brought to you by Visible, an all-digital mobile phone service offering unlimited everything running on Verizon's 4G LTE network. Stay tuned to find out more.
I'm Andrew Edwards, and you're watching Gear Live. One of the biggest features of the new Samsung Galaxy S20 lineup is the fact that the super high megapixel count on the zoom camera allows for 8K video recording. In this video, I'm going to show you what 8K video looks like straight out of the camera of the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra to see if the difference in quality is enough to justify the much higher storage requirements. What's going on, Tech Squad? Andrew Edwards here, editor-in-chief of GearLive.com, and as I mentioned today, we are taking a look at the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, and in particular, that rear camera that now allows for 8K video recording. Now, when you first hear that the camera can record in 8K, it probably makes you assume that it's going to give you much higher quality video than recording in 4K. So I'm going to put that theory to the test. I spent a few days recording a bunch of 8K video directly from the Galaxy S20 Ultra, and all of the clips that you see in this video have been recorded on the S20 Ultra, with the exception of when I'm standing here talking to you. This is actually recorded in 6K on a Panasonic S1H mirrorless camera. So this 6K footage is going to be blown up to 8K, and then all the other 8K footage will be native resolution. And there will also be a couple of 4K clips recorded from the S20 Ultra as well, and I will indicate when you're watching those particular clips. By the way, we are doing a giveaway for an iPhone 11 or Samsung Galaxy S20. We will have 2 winners. Each winner can choose which phone they want. Link to the giveaway is down in the description below as well. Now, the sponsor of this video is Visible. They're an all-digital mobile phone service offering unlimited everything. And I actually became familiar with Visible when my friend Kevin, the tech ninja, saved me at CES when he let me use his Visible SIM card out of his second phone, and it worked fantastically. Now, my main carrier is fine when I'm at home and around town, but when I get to a major conference with thousands of other people and I want my cell signal to be rock solid, Visible has always stood up to the test. Now let's dig into the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra's camera. So what I did was take shots around town. You'll see me at the grocery store. I went to an XFL game at CenturyLink Field to check out the Seattle Dragons, and I also shot some video at a couple of local wrestling shows, those being Defy and Without a Cause Wrestling, both here in the Seattle area. And I figured that would be enough variation to test real world scenarios. Also, on the real world scenario front, my approach to this test of the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra was to mimic how I think the majority of people would use the camera. So that means I use it handheld, usually in this orientation, no tripod, no fancy sliders, no pro mode or any other equipment. If you want to see what this camera can do with all of those add-ons, there are plenty of other YouTube channels that are doing that, but I wanted to focus specifically on how I think most people are going to use the camera on their smartphone, which is taking the phone out of your pocket, pointing it at something, and pressing record. Now, the one thing that stuck out to me immediately when shooting in 8K was the crop. At first I was confused and thought something was wrong, and then I realized what was happening. When shooting in 4K, the Galaxy S20 will use the main camera, since only an 8 megapixel camera is required to shoot 4K video. However, in order to shoot in 8K, you need at least a 32 megapixel camera, which means the Galaxy S20 and S20 Plus have to use the 64 megapixel zoom camera, and the Galaxy S20 Ultra needs to use that 108 megapixel zoom camera. Of course, since you're using the zoom camera instead of the typical camera, you are going to get a zoomed in image when recording video on the S20 line of smartphones. Now, 8K footage recorded on the Samsung Galaxy S20 will take up around 600 megabytes per minute, meaning that storage could quickly become an issue if you want to record video at the highest possible resolution. Samsung also told me that 5 minutes of 8K footage would take up around 3 gigabytes of space on your phone. Now, the amount of storage space you'll need isn't the only limitation that applies to recording in 8K. on the Galaxy S20. The maximum recording time is capped at 5 minutes, and you can only shoot video at 24 frames per second. There's no ability to record at a higher frame rate like 60 frames per second or even 30 frames per second. Now for me, my preferred frame rate for shooting happens to be 24 frames per second. So it's not a huge deal to me, but if you did want to shoot at 60 frames per second in order to get something like smoother slow motion, unfortunately you'll have to bump down to 4K on the Galaxy S20. There's also no video stabilization available at 8K, so you'll have to do stabilization in software after the fact. I did not apply stabilization here to these clips because I wanted to show how the video looked right out of the camera. The other issue that I found when recording at 8K was that autofocus just wasn't as good. Now again, I'm using the Galaxy S20 Ultra, which uses phase detection autofocus rather than the dual pixel autofocus found on the S20 and S20 Plus. And there's a possibility that that's the reason that the autofocus just isn't as good on the S20 Ultra. In fact, the camera I'm recording this on, again, the Panasonic S1H, also uses phase detect autofocus. And that's the reason that I never use autofocus on my main camera, and instead I do everything manually. Phase detection autofocus just isn't as good as something like dual pixel autofocus. So as you can see in some of these clips, the focus goes in and out while trying to figure out what the camera should actually be focused on. Now, before we continue with even more 8K goodness, let's check back in with this video sponsor, Visible. Now, I've already told you how reliable Visible is, but now let's talk about the price. You pay just $40 a month for unlimited talk, unlimited text, unlimited data, and even unlimited mobile hotspot with no annual contracts. Visible also gives you access to all the latest phones like the Samsung Galaxy S20 lineup. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about how an all-digital phone service like Visible works. Now, if you're interested and want to find out even more about Visible, be sure to hit the link down in the description below. Once again, big thank you to Visible for sponsoring this video. Now, one of the reasons Samsung says you might want to film in 8K is that the high resolution means that you can pull 33 megapixel stills directly out of a video, meaning it's possible to create usable photographs from footage originally recorded as video. So basically right in the camera app, when you're playing back your 8K footage, you can easily pull a still photo from any frame. Now, one last thing to consider with 8K recording is the fact that in order to see your full resolution of what you recorded, and this should be obvious, you need to have an 8K display or an 8K TV. Now back there, I have Samsung's 8K Q900R, so I'm able to cast 8K video directly from the S20 to the TV to see it in its native resolution. But if you don't have an 8K display, and let's say you have a 4K display or lower, when you're watching back your footage, there's no way for you to see the full resolution of what you recorded. So it might make sense for you in that case to just shoot in a lower resolution and save yourself the space. Now, since you're here for 8K video goodness, here are a few more clips that I captured on the Galaxy S20 Ultra. So there you have it, guys. That is what 8K video looks like here on the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra in particular. I do want to check out the S20 or S20 Plus and compare dual pixel autofocus against the phase detection autofocus that we're seeing here on the S20 Ultra to see if that's actually an improvement. But that is not to say that the 8K video was terrible, just that focusing wasn't as good as I would have hoped to see on the Ultra in particular. Now, I've dropped a bunch of other videos on the new Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra. We've got the unboxing, we've got to look at space zoom, and we've got to look at my favorite camera feature, single take mode. I'll leave links to those down in the description below, as well as right here in a card for you to check out. If you want to hear even more about the Samsung Galaxy S20 Ultra, be sure to check out the Geared Up podcast. We're going to be going into a deep dive on this phone. Geared Up is the show I do each and every week with John Rettinger, where we bring you the latest in tech, gadgets, and games. Just search for Geared Up in your favorite podcast player and you'll find us there. We've also got the full review and full camera review coming of this phone as well. Hit that subscribe button down below if you want to stay up to date on all future videos. Until next time, thank you so much for watching as always, guys. I appreciate your support. I'm Andrew Edwards, and I will catch you in the next video.